So why, oh why, is it so hard to give up sugar and carbs when we know these are things that are robbing us of health, of life, of happiness, and freedom? Not that carbs are bad.
No.
But too much of them and too much of the wrong ones is not helpful to us.
No.
So welcome to this episode where we're going to be talking about the 3 reasons why you crave, whether it be sugar or carbs. So we're probably going to say the word sugar quite a bit in this video, but anytime I say sugar, if you don't have a problem with sugar, but you know that carbs are your craving, where you just want chips and bread and you want like the other starchy carbs, then it's the same thing. So anytime I say sugar, just insert carbs, because we know,
it is complicated or tricky because people think, well, I don't eat sugary things, but I eat a whole bunch of bread and pasta.
Right. And so Chris and I actually just released a podcast yesterday on the Healthy Free Life show where we talked about the 9 reasons why we crave. So definitely go check that out if you want to go more in depth and to learn the other 6 reasons. But today we're going to be talking about the top 3 reasons why you crave. And it's not as simple as you think. It's actually very complex because what happens is so often you think that it's a willpower or a self-discipline issue. And while discipline is definitely a part of it, and we're going to talk about that later, but like we have to understand that we're not going to willpower our way out of this. And what we cannot do is allow ourselves to feel defeated, because what you don't really understand is there's reasons why you have these cravings to begin with.
Yeah, there's deep-rooted things, and you can't willpower your way through those.
No, and it's not just it can feel so emotional when we crave, because we I just want it, I shouldn't have it. We have all this turmoil that happens, and then we eat it, and then we feel terrible, and we feel like a failure, and all these things. But the realisms is that you need to understand that there's bodily reasons why we crave, mental reasons why we crave, as well as spiritual reasons why we crave. And so we're going to dive into some of those today. So before we do that, though, have a super exciting announcement. We want to help you to conquer your cravings. So we're going to go into the why, which is super important. But we need to help you to conquer them as well. Right. So we got to give you the reasons why, and then we're going to give you the how during our Conquer Your Cravings live virtual event that starts next Thursday, October 14th. Super excited about that. We put the URL on the screen there, healthyfreelife.com/cravings. We'll also put that link right up in the post as well, so you can easily click it and head over there to register. So we're going to spend 2 weeks together. It's a free event, 2 weeks together, coaching and teaching you exactly how to use my Body, Mind, Spirit plan to help you break free from the bondage of food and, sugar and those processed carbs we all love if we're not careful. So we're going to dive in. Number one. What you need to understand is that we are actually biologically wired to crave sweet foods. Like, it's a God-given thing that He has given us to crave sweet foods, which back then wasn't a bad thing. When I say back then, since the beginning of time and even up into the last 200 years, this was not a bad thing for us to crave sweet foods. And there's a couple reasons. One is that we have to know what foods are good and not good to eat. So if you live in the wilderness, if you live in, in areas where where you have to go forage for your food and hunt and grow and all these things, you want to be able to taste and know that your food is edible. And sweetness in foods helps us to identify. So
and
you don't
safe to eat.
Yeah, you don't think about it, but kale is sweet, red pepper is sweet, brown rice is sweet. These actually have sweetness if you really tuned into them, but we're so overly sweetened that we can't even notice them anymore.
Part of that is our taste buds have been just kind of hijacked.
Yeah, exactly. But there's another reason why we crave, and why is that?
Well, why we're biologically wired is because what sugar does is it actually provides us with like high energy jet fuel. I mean, what we eat actually gets turned into energy. And when we eat sugar, it actually gives us the ability to do quick bursts of activities. So back in the day, we actually did more physical labor. And also even, you had to maybe run away from something that might be chasing you. So you needed that jet fuel to be able to be a quick jolt of energy to be able to do the activities that you were required to do. But unfortunately, in our society now, unless you have a labor type job, which there's not as many of those anymore. Most of us now sit in front of a computer.
Right.
You don't necessarily need high energy jet fuel to type on a keyboard.
Right. So, and that's the thing, is that we have this excess these excess foods coming in, because when you think about it, like because of industrialization, these foods used to be rare. Like, you know, we would have sweet foods, right, that would keep us, but things like honey and even fruit were rare wherever you lived 200, 300, 400 years ago. Now, and so industrialization has changed all that.
Right.
And with the packaged foods on our grocery store shelves, having 74% of them have sugar in them, we now have access to sugar all the time. And like you, maybe like us, we have kids, and like literally our children, if given the rights to, they would eat sugar all day long because they're wired to do so. But that leads us to a problem, and that's the reason why Number two is that why we crave is that if we're not careful and we start teetering on eating too much sugar and the wrong carbohydrates, then what's happening is we begin to get addicted to them. It sets up an addictive state in our mind, because this is how our brains were created. Now, you need to understand that sugar is as addictive as something like cocaine. In fact, when they do scans of somebody eating cocaine versus doing a hit of somebody eating sugar versus doing a hit of cocaine, it lights up the exact same areas of the brain. And even they'll do studies with rats where they'll give a cocaine addicted rat the option to go for cocaine or sugar, and it actually chooses cocaine every time. Crazy. It would rather, even though it's addicted to cocaine, it would rather have the sugar. So that tells us that it's an extremely addictive substance. So once we start teetering on eating too much, we can then go overboard into the addiction, because there's a couple of chemicals I want to tell you about that happen in your brain, because I really want you to understand what's going on inside your brain with this. So there's a chemical called dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and it's how your brain cells communicate. And one of the things that it transmits is dopamine. And dopamine is a pleasure chemical, okay? Dopamine is a good thing. It actually helps us to do lots of life-sustaining things. I'm not going to go into the details of all of them, but it keeps us, it keeps our species, let's just say, it keeps our species continuing in generations and generations. So there's some good things where dopamine comes and it gives us a feeling of pleasure. But what can happen is, in the case of sugar, we actually, every time we eat sugar, it actually gives us a dopamine hit. So we can feel pleasure. But the problem is that we've mistaken that for joy and happiness, which it's not. And we're going to talk about how it actually robs joy here in a second. And so we eat sugar and it gives us a dopamine hit. We eat sugar, it gives us a dopamine hit. The problem is that it's too much, and it's too much of a dopamine hit. And now it's like washing through our brain, and our brain's like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much, and it begins to shut down some of the receptors, and it is putting out as much dopamine, but you're not receiving the message as much. And so your brain's like, oh, we need more, because it gets addicted to the dopamine hits. And so this is true with any addictive substance that we have. And so we need more and more. And that's the problem. This is why, we just continuously need more. Just like, somebody who is addicted to drugs can start with a small amount of drugs, but they get into trouble because they need more and more and more.
You're resistant to it.
Yeah. And the thing that you need to know also is that this excess dopamine, too much dopamine, actually affects another important chemical in your brain, and that is serotonin. So where dopamine is the pleasure neurotransmitter, the chemical serotonin is actually the joy chemical. This is where we feel like this, like that release of good things. This is where we feel peace and we feel joy. And, when you truly walk out in nature, there's lots of serotonin that gets released when we're out in nature and we're experiencing God's creation or whatever it is that brings joy to you. Snuggling a baby is a release of serotonin. These are good things, right? But the problem is that dopamine down-regulates serotonin. It actually robs and prevents serotonin.
That's what's crazy. How they oppose each other. Yeah.
So it literally, eating sugar robs joy.
Yeah.
Eating sugar robs joy. So we need to understand that here we think that sugar is like bringing us up. Sugar is bringing us happiness. Sugar is bringing us joy. I'm stressed out, so I'm going to go for sugar. But the issue is that every time we do that and we make the choice to engage in sugar thinking it's going to alter our feelings, it does in the moment because we have that initial hit of pleasure, but it's momentarily. And we're trading our joy and our long-term hopes and dreams for this momentary pleasure. And it just is, it's so counterintuitive because sugar really does hijack the reward center because of this dopamine issue, and it's hijacking things and telling us that sugar is a reward, and really it's fake. It's not true at all. It's a lie. Right. It is a deceit, and we just need to understand what's happening because of this. Every time we do this, we go deeper and deeper and become less joy filled, and so what do we do when we're feeling depressed?
And then
we're like, if we're feeling depressed because we've been robbed of serotonin and we've been robbed of our joy, then what are we going to do? I'm going to reach for sugar because that's all you know to bring your joy back up. And the vicious cycle continues
over and over and over.
And then this is where we get into trouble because now we're in bondage. So now this lifestyle of using food and being addicted to food, sugar, carbs, whatever it might be. So using whatever to become addicted is that what happens is then we become in bondage. And that leads to point number 3, is that we have an enemy. We have an enemy whose job is to thwart the plans of God, to distract us, his people, to enslave us, to make us not believe the truths of God's word. And we must understand that the enemy has used and exploited the way we were created, and then now has used and abused food, and now is using us to enslave us. And because we have this addictive pattern and behavior,
it plays right into it
in our life. It just plays right into it. So I often joke, there's things in my life where it's like Satan doesn't have to pull out the big artillery because
no, that's not how he does it.
I'm on autopilot on a lot of these behaviors that are harmful more than good.
Yeah. It's the small lies.
Yeah. And so the thing that we need to understand is that these strongholds can become idols. And so we need to be very careful because we don't want to be enslaved to anything other than to be a bondservant of Jesus Christ. Right. So we don't want to be enslaved to these things. And if you are feeling like you are enslaved and you have to eat sugar and carbs, then it's a stronghold. And we must break free. We cannot allow food or anything to dictate our life. And so we must live in freedom.
Yes.
And that's been given to us.
Yes, it's like, it's just a battle between the flesh and the spirit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, Paul talks about basically beating himself up to make his flesh do what it needs to do. And so we do that through disciplines.
Right. Habits and practices, spiritual practices.
So it's not that you're not self-disciplined, you just haven't, you're looking at it a wrong way. Self-discipline is you think that, no, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that, right? Yeah. We're doing it by willpower. But really self-discipline is different in that one of the ways to do it is like an athlete trains. An athlete trains so that they could be a great athlete. This is how if we want great health, we have to train.
Yeah, it's like
to learn how to do good health.
One of the analogies is like training for a marathon. If you're like, I've done 4 marathons, but when I first started running marathons, I literally could only run like a quarter of a mile before I was gonna like literally die. Yeah. So I was that far out of shape. So was running a marathon in my wheelhouse then?
Right.
No. But over time, you take baby steps, and you can get to a point where you can run a half a mile, and then a mile, and then 2 miles, and then you do the training, and you get yourself to a point where now you're running 22 miles, and now running 26 miles, which is a marathon. 26.2 is actually within your grasp. Right. You're actually someone that it's still hard, but you're capable of doing that.
Right. And that's exactly what we do inside all of our programs is we help our students to develop the habit of health. And there's all of these habits that we focus on to help us to become healthy without our brains having to think a lot about it.
Right.
And these healthy habits come in and they begin to weed out these fleshly negative habits that can take root. So I have a question for you. If you were to say what you crave, what is it that you crave the most? So when it comes to food, what is it that you crave the most? So I'd love to know. I'm making a list. I'm going to be using that list during Conquer Your Cravings during the video series. I'd love to give whatever it is that you crave. I won't give your name a shout out, but I'll give whatever it is that you crave a shout out because I think we need to kind of compile a list and recognize that these are the things that can lead us to a place of bondage. And so this is where so often people just are like, I just don't have control. And that's what we are so desperate for, is because we are being controlled.
You feel like you're literally being controlled by the food.
Yes. So we'll open up the comments here, and you let us know what it is that you are craving. Christine says, pretty scary that they would choose sugar over cocaine. Such an eye-opener. Love the science explanation behind cravings. So while you're telling me what it is that you crave, and if you're watching this on the replay, I'd love to know too. Again, collecting a list, so definitely let us know. But, we need to be reminded that I need to remind you, food does not elicit joy. It does not create happiness. Food does not cure loneliness. It does not reduce stress. It does not ease anxiety, and it does not comfort us. Food was given to us by God, and it was meant to be enjoyed. There is a difference. Looking to it to bring joy, now we're looking to God's creation, and we're worshiping God's creation, expecting it to elicit that response, but it doesn't. It's incapable of doing that. So there is a fine line between enjoying God's food and expecting joy from God's food. And there's two different things. We can be satisfied in his food, but we need to be satisfied in him. We need to look to him for joy. And so, because only God can do these things. Philippians 4:19 says that he can meet all of our needs according to the riches in his glory in Christ Jesus. Food will never do that. So we've got to really pull the wool off our eyes and see this. And so I love also this verse from 1 Corinthians 6:12 through 20. And I'm going to read it to you. This is where Paul is urging us. And I'm going to read the Message Bible version. So the Message version, I just love how Eugene Peterson just kind of really takes this and just drives it home with such great language. And he says, just because something is technically legal, like sugar, let me just put that in. That's not in the Bible, but I put that in. So just because something is technically legal doesn't mean that it's spiritually appropriate. If I went around doing whatever I thought I could get away with, I would be a slave to my whims, right? Just because you can eat all the sugar you want to doesn't mean you should, because now we're a slave to our whims.
You think it's freedom, but it's actually bondage.
Yes, exactly. You know the old saying, first you eat to live, and then you live to eat. Well, it may be true that the body is only a temporary thing, but that is no excuse for stuffing your body with food. Since the master honors you with the body, honor him with your body. Or didn't you realize that your body is a sacred place, the place of the Holy Spirit? Don't you see that you can't live however you please, squandering what God has paid such a high price for? The physical part of you, it is not some piece of property that belongs to the spiritual part of you. So they're interconnected, but it doesn't mean that your body is owned by your spiritual self. No. You see, God owns the whole works. So let people see God in and through your body. Like God can be glorified through our body. And this is what we're all about here at Healthy Free Life, is eating and living in a way that brings glory to God so that others can see and know who God is, and so that we can fully live out our purpose, and we can do it well. That's what this is about. And I know that the bondage of sugar, the bondage of food can be so tight. So I see breads and chocolate, candy, cookies and breads, candy, peanut butter and chocolate. See here. Yes, it is these are real things that we struggle with. Yes. And we've got to break free from them. Not that we can't enjoy chocolate or candy on occasion, but to the point where it's not controlling us. We're in charge. And I promise you, it's possible to get to that place. I promise you. It's happened in our own lives. It has happened in the lives of thousands of our students who have broken free from
just like running the marathon.
You're
not a superhero if you run a marathon. You just were able to put the time and discipline in. I always say anybody can run a marathon if they're willing to put the time in.
That's right.
It's not going to be easy, and none of this is going to be easy. But it's all, everybody has the potential to do it. They just have to be able to want to put the time into it.
So now it's going to be time to go do the thing. I got my do the thing mug with me today. I realize it's a little on the messy side. I got from
You're using it.
I know, because I'm using it today. And so I want you to go do the thing now. So go and register for our upcoming Conquer Your Cravings event. It's a 2-week live virtual event that you get to come and learn and gain knowledge, but then also support and encouragement. And you're going to be able to get all your questions answered. We're going to spend 2 weeks together, probably 10 hours worth of coaching and teaching.
You're going to be in front of this computer.
I'm going to be in front of this camera a lot
yeah.
from October 14th through the 28th.
I'll see you on the 28th.
I know. I want you to be there. So go to healthyfreelife.com/cravings. That's on the screen there. You can also click it up in the post. I'll put the link up there as well as soon as we're done here. So definitely go and register for that. We can't wait to teach you exactly the body, mind, spirit plan that's going to help you to break free from your cravings so that you can live abundantly. That's what this is about. All right. It's been a joy to be here with you. We will be back next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, same place. Until next time, bye for now.